You never saw it coming. How the rich spot betrayal before it happens. The people who destroy you never walk in wearing a villain mask. They walk in looking like help, like support, like opportunity. The business partner who believed in you, the friend who had your back, the relationship that felt different this time. They don't show up as predators. They show up as protection. And then one day your money is gone, your reputation is stained, your peace is shattered, and you say the same weak sentence every betrayed person repeats. I never saw it coming. Think carefully about this. That line isn't proof of how shocking the betrayal was. It's proof of how blind you were to the patterns that were there from the start. Here's something nobody wants to admit. You didn't lose that deal, that friendship, that relationship by accident. You lost it because you ignored signals. The late replies when they needed nothing but blew up your phone when they wanted access. The private flattery followed by public distance. The gossip they brought you about others while swearing they were loyal to you. The truth is simple but painful. You were reactive. You trusted words. You trusted emotion. You trusted the mask. Rich, strategic people don't do that. They don't wait to be betrayed and then cry about how unfair the world is. While you assume good intentions until proven wrong, they assume mixed intentions and quietly test for proof. While you overshare your plans, they control information and watch who leaks. While you rush into deals because you want to believe, they slow everything down and study how someone behaves when they're denied access to money, status, or leverage. Machiavelli understood this long before the modern self-help industry started preaching, just be positive. He warned that by the time a traitor shows their true face, the damage is already done. Power is lost in silence, then revealed in public. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. The rich learned those rules. They know conspiracies almost always come from insiders who were once trusted, rewarded, and allowed too close. So while the average person waits for a dramatic betrayal, wealthy players run quiet integrity tests. They offer small temptations and see who bites. They give limited access and track who tries to stretch it. They watch behavioral consistency over time, not emotional intensity in the moment. They separate wolves from sheep before the teeth ever show. What you're about to discover is this forbidden strategy applied to your circle, a ruthless early detection framework. 9 behavioral patterns that expose snakes, wolves, and hidden enemies months before they strike. If you've ever said, "I never saw it coming," this video is going to kill that excuse forever. Because once you see these patterns, betrayal stops being a surprise and starts being a choice you allowed. Stay with me. In the next part, we start dissecting the first pattern. And you'll realize some of the people around you have already failed the test. The game isn't fair, it's rigged for the people who see the snakes, so understand this. You don't just lose money, status, and time to bad luck. You lose them to snakes you refuse to see. And in the money game, that blindness is what keeps you poor, exposed, and easy to use. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Money doesn't care how loyal you've been. It doesn't care how many late nights you worked, how good your heart is, or how much you sacrificed. Money flows toward people who understand power, perception, and early detection of disloyalty. If you can't see betrayal coming, you will always build for someone else. They smile, you trust, they wait, then they take. Look at the average worker. He thinks the world rewards effort. He thinks following the rules is enough. Meanwhile, the rich treat every relationship like a potential power shift. They assume everyone is self-interested. They assume loyalty is temporary. They assume that the person who flatters them today might be the one quietly sharpening a knife tomorrow. Machiavelli understood this centuries before modern HR departments started selling you corporate family illusions. Princes didn't survive by trusting harder. They survived by assuming betrayal as the default setting of human nature. The truth is simple but painful. A ruler who waits for open treason is already dead. So they built systems. Silent tests, controlled temptations. They watched who gossiped, who hesitated, who tried to collect allies in the shadows. Think carefully about this. In modern business, the same strategy runs everything. High-status players run integrity tests. They give people low-stakes access to money, information, or reputation, and watch what they do when they think nobody is tracking. The one who leaks, exaggerates, or plays both sides never gets near real power. This is forbidden strategy, but it's everywhere at the top. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. The rich don't confuse smiles with safety. They don't assume the loudest supporter is the most loyal. They study behavior over time. They look at who brings gossip, who reframes credit, who shifts blame. They separate wolves from sheep long before the sheep realize there was even a test. What you're about to discover in this video are the actual behavioral patterns they use. 9 specific tells that expose two-faced people months before they strike. Once you see them, you can't unsee them. You'll notice the co-founder who praises you in private but steals your ideas in public. The friend who brings you every negative rumor but never defends your name when you're not in the room. And here's the disturbing part. Some of the most dangerous snakes in your life right now don't look like enemies at all. They look like your biggest supporters, your #1 fan, your ride or die. In the next section, when we break down the first pattern, you're going to recognize someone instantly. And once you do, every past interaction with them will look very different. You fed the snake, how your mindset invites two-faced people in, and here's where it gets uncomfortable. Those snakes didn't just find you. You rolled out a red carpet for them with your beliefs, your habits, your need to see the world as gentle when it's full of predators. You think you were betrayed. In reality, you were broadcasting easy target the whole time. You were raised on a fairy tale. Work hard, be loyal, be generous, and in return you'll receive protection, respect, reciprocity. That story sounds noble, but here's something nobody wants to admit. In real power dynamics, that mindset doesn't make you safe. It makes you edible. Predators study people who still believe effort automatically earns security. They know you'll stay even when it hurts, because you think endurance is virtue. Think carefully about this. Look at your own pattern. You overshare because you think openness proves you're genuine. You overtrust because you don't want drama. You assume good intentions from people who keep showing you mixed signals, and you confuse emotional intensity with loyalty. Someone cries with you twice and suddenly they're inside your private life, your money problems, your relationship secrets. That isn't connection. That is a buffet. The truth is simple but painful. Two-faced people don't attack at random. They scan. They test. They look for the average person who avoids conflict, who laughs off small insults, who ignores that weird comment because it's not a big deal. They watch you explain away every red flag to preserve comfort. They see that you'd rather protect your fantasy about people than protect your power. That's their green light. This is forbidden strategy from their side. They weaponize your good opinion of yourself. I'm the loyal one. I'm the forgiving one. I always give chances. You repeat these lines like a moral badge. They hear, I don't enforce consequences. I don't like saying no. I'll keep feeding you even while you poison me. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Understand this clearly. Betrayal didn't simply happen to you. Your mindset opened the door, sat the traitor at your table, and handed them the knife, even if you never understood the game. That doesn't mean you deserved it. It means you were playing with children's rules in an adult arena where money, status, and leverage decide who walks away whole. If you don't upgrade your detection system, nothing changes. You will keep funding snakes with your time, your secrets, your energy and cash, then labeling it friendship, love, loyalty, being a good person. How many more promotions, relationships, and opportunities are you willing to lose this way? Because once you see the 9 patterns in the next section, you will never again be able to say, I didn't see it coming. You'll see it early. The only question is, will you finally act on it? Stop playing the victim. Why powerful people assume everyone is a potential traitor, so stop rehearsing that line, I didn't see it coming, like it makes you innocent. It doesn't. It just exposes the role you've chosen in the game. Victim, prey. The truth is simple but painful. In a world of predators, innocence is not a virtue, it's bait. Think carefully about this. In any hierarchy, there are only 2 identities, predator or prey. Prey walk around assuming people are good, assuming loyalty, assuming shared morals. Predators assume something very different. They assume everyone is capable of betrayal under the right pressure, with the right temptation, at the right price. So they plan for it. They design their money, their power, their relationships with that assumption baked into every rule. You call that paranoid. The rich call it preparation. They don't walk around shaking, terrified of shadows. They walk around observant, calm, cold. Every interaction is data. Every compliment, every delay in answering, every shift in tone is information about incentives, patterns, and alignment. They're not asking, do they like me? They're asking, what do they want? What do they fear? Where is their leverage if this turns? Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most of the damage in your life didn't come from obvious enemies. It came from smiling insiders you never audited. Powerful people obsess over this. They know conspiracies rarely start outside the castle walls. They start with insiders who were once trusted and rewarded. So the rich treat conversations like quiet surveillance. They watch who gossips. They note who flatters too hard. They see who bends the truth when the stakes are low. Because that's the rehearsal for high-stakes betrayal. This is where the observer versus reactor split appears. Reactors live on impact. Someone praises them, they melt. Someone criticizes them, they explode. They get blinded by words and emotions, then act shocked when behavior doesn't match. Observers do the opposite. They let people talk, then ignore the performance and study the pattern. They watch what you do with small amounts of money, with minor secrets, with low-risk temptations. Then they quietly adjust access, trust, and proximity. This is forbidden strategy for the average person because it kills their favorite fantasy, that good intentions protect them. They don't. And this isn't about becoming cold or loveless. It's about refusing to outsource your safety to other people's stories, tears, or dramatic loyalty speeches. You can love deeply and still lock the doors. You can be generous and still run integrity tests. What you're about to discover when you adopt the observer identity is unsettling. You'll start noticing micro-betrayals you used to excuse. The hesitation before someone defends you in a room. The way a friend delivers gossip that raises their status while lowering yours. The co-worker who praises you in private but rewrites the story in public. These are tells, tiny cracks that show exactly who will flip when the money, status, or pressure spikes. The game isn't rigged, you just don't know the real rules yet. In the next section, you'll see those rules written in behavior, so clearly you'll never again confuse a snake for an ally. The hidden cost of being nice, how two-faced people tax your entire life, those tiny cracks you've seen. They're not personality quirks, they're invoices. Every two-faced person around you is quietly sending you a bill in money, time, and status. You don't feel it at first, but by the time you notice, the debt is already crushing you. Think carefully about this. You don't just lose cash in the money game when markets crash or deals fail. You lose it when you trust the wrong person. The co-founder who loves your vision while stealing your deck and pitching it without you. The colleague who nods at your idea, then presents it to the boss as their own. The friend who leaks your plans to a rival, killing the opportunity before it even exists. That's not drama. That's lost leverage, lost equity, lost future income streams you will never even know you were supposed to own. Here's something nobody wants to admit. The most expensive losses never show up on your bank statement. They show up as the promotion you didn't get because someone quietly poisoned your reputation months earlier. The investor who passed because they weren't sure about you after a private conversation you weren't in. The client who stopped calling because a snake framed you as unreliable while smiling in your face. You think you're just unlucky. You're not. You're being taxed by predators. And the financial cost is only the surface. There's the emotional bill. Waking up tense because you're not sure who's actually on your side. Replaying conversations, second-guessing every word, wondering, did I overshare? Did they twist that? You spend hours cleaning up messes created by people who swore they cared about you. Damage control. Clarifying lies. Repairing trust with others. That exhaustion is real. Your focus, your drive, your creativity get drained into managing chaos you never started. Look at the average worker. He already fights the system for money and power, yet still surrounds himself with two-faced colleagues who use him as a shield. They mess up, he takes the blame. They succeed, they take the credit. Snakes climb by standing on his shoulders, using proximity to him as proof they're competent, then dropping him the moment a better ladder appears. They rise. He becomes the convenient victim. The truth is simple, but painful. Betrayal is one of the single most expensive events in any power game. Rich, strategic people know this. That's why they obsess over early detection. They run small integrity tests. They watch patterns over time. Prevention is cheap. Repair is brutal. Think about divorces, blown partnerships, lawsuits. One traitor can erase 10 years of disciplined work. What you're about to discover is this: without a structured framework, you will keep relying on vibes and wishful thinking. You'll feel someone is loyal while ignoring their behavioral tells, and that's exactly what manipulators want. They thrive in your uncertainty. In the next section, you'll get a clear, ruthless system that separates wolves from sheep long before they strike, so your money, status, and sanity stop paying for other people's hidden agendas. This isn't about trust issues. It's about power literacy, so understand this. This is not about becoming paranoid, broken, or having trust issues. This is about learning the operating system of power. The rich aren't more emotional than you. They're more literate. They study betrayal the way investors study charts, because in the money game, one blind friendship can erase 10 years of work. Here's something nobody wants to admit. The elite are taught from day one that people are assets, liabilities, or weapons. You were told to see the best in everyone. They were told to see the leverage in everyone. You call it overthinking when you scan for snakes. They call it basic risk management. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Look at the research. Machiavelli warned that conspiracies almost always come from insiders, the ones you rewarded, promoted, trusted. Modern data says the same thing. Workplace sabotage, major fraud, public humiliation. It rarely comes from the loud enemy outside the gates. It comes from the co-founder with access to your logins, the assistant who knows your weak points, the loyal friend who holds your secrets like a loaded gun. Think carefully about this. Outsiders can hate you, but they can't really hurt you until an insider opens a door. That's why powerful people separate affection from access. They can laugh with you, travel with you, share stories with you, and still never hand you the keys to their leverage points, their passwords, their investors, their real numbers, their private strategy calls. They don't confuse liking someone with letting that person sit next to the control panel. Average people think that's cold. They think trust means full access. The rich treat access like equity. You don't give it away because someone makes you feel safe in the moment. You allocate it in layers, based on behavior over time. The truth is simple but painful. If your access standards are emotional, your losses will be financial. So what do they do instead? They run quiet surveillance, not drama, not paranoia. Observation. They watch how someone talks when they believe the room is safe. They notice who gossips, who exaggerates, who always brings intel but never accountability. They test integrity with low-stakes situations, small amounts of money, minor secrets, tiny deadlines. Fail a $50 test, you never see a $50,000 opportunity. This is forbidden strategy for the average person because you were trained to feel guilty for protecting yourself. Yet rich predators use it daily. They track behavioral consistency, not emotional intensity. They don't care how loudly someone swears loyalty in a crisis. They care how quietly that person behaves when no one is watching. What you're about to discover with the 9 behavioral patterns is a diagnostic tool for your entire circle. Once these patterns install in your mind, you won't get a bad feeling about someone. You'll see the specific rule they're breaking. And when you see that, you'll face a ruthless decision in the next section that most people run from. Why your circle is a cage. The average person's blind loyalty trap, and here's where the average person loses the game before it even starts. You loop through the same week on repeat. Work, commute, small talk in the office kitchen, the same group chat lighting up with recycled memes, Friday drinks with the same faces, the same stories, the same complaints about money and bosses and stress. You call this a circle. In reality, it's an uninspected cage. You never audit loyalty. You never stress test intentions. You just assume proximity equals protection. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most people treat their social life like background noise. As long as no one is openly attacking them, they label everyone friend. So you tolerate subtle disrespect disguised as jokes. You ignore the comment that undercuts you in front of others. You watch someone share your private information as banter, and you laugh it off to keep the vibe smooth. Obedience to social comfort becomes your prison. You become predictable. And predictable people are easy to control. Think carefully about this. When everyone knows you'll avoid hard conversations, snakes gain perfect leverage. They can gossip because you won't confront. They can vent about others to you, knowing you'll just nod and absorb the poison. They can test boundaries, step over them, then watch you smile and say, "It's fine." That reaction teaches predators the rule: you're safe to exploit. Then come the naive beliefs. They'd never do that to me. We've known each other for years. They're just stressed. They're just venting. The truth is simple but painful. Time spent together does not equal loyalty. Familiarity is not a shield. Machiavelli warned that conspiracies almost always come from insiders who were once trusted and rewarded. Two-faced people weaponize your assumptions. They know you'd rather protect the story in your head than confront the pattern in front of your eyes. Pattern interrupt. Ask yourself a question you've probably never asked. If one person in your circle had to betray you for status, money, or power, who would it be? If your mind instantly resists the question, that's the cage talking. Now contrast this with how the rich move. They don't cling to day ones out of nostalgia. They reassess their circle regularly. They upgrade alliances the way they upgrade assets. Quietly, without announcements, without drama. Someone starts gossiping too much? Access reduced. Someone shows selective loyalty, defending them in private but staying silent in public? Distance created. High-status players run integrity tests, watch behavioral consistency, and act early. This is forbidden strategy for the average person because it feels cold. But the game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Rich, strategic people treat their circle like a portfolio. Review, rebalance, remove risk. What you're about to discover with the 9 patterns is a new lens. No shouting. No emotional scenes. Just cold, strategic clarity. You'll be able to scan your entire circle and see, with brutal precision, who is solid, who is unstable, and who is already rehearsing their betrayal. In the next section, you'll learn how to act on that information without warning shots and without becoming their next victim. Leverage versus effort. How snakes ride your grind to their throne. Now we get to the pattern almost nobody wants to see in themselves. Leverage versus effort. You grind. They rise. You sweat. They collect status. And you tell yourself it's just how the world works. Think carefully about this. Leverage is simple. It's when one person gets a disproportionate upside from other people's time, reputation, and resources while carrying almost none of the downside themselves. You take the risks. You absorb the stress. They sit in the safest seat in the room, harvesting the rewards. That's not an accident. That's strategy. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Two-faced people are obsessed with leverage. Not building their own. Plugging into yours. They study who works hardest, who is the most loyal, who is emotionally generous. Then they move close, slow and friendly. They don't attack your power. They ride it. They stand just behind you when things go right and just beside you when things go wrong. Watch how they position themselves. In the office, it's the coworker who loves your thinking, asks to brainstorm, then walks into the meeting and presents your ideas as if they emerged in their own head. When the boss is impressed, they tilt the story upward. I've been pushing this direction for a while. When a detail fails, the blame flows downward. We delegated that part. You did the thinking. You carry the stain. In your personal life, it's the friend who drains your network but never opens theirs. You introduce them to clients, investors, high-status people. They take the calls, close the deals, build quiet alliances. But when you ask for a bridge into their circle, there's always a delay, an excuse, a vague timing isn't right. Your contacts become their leverage. Their contacts stay locked. In relationships, it's the partner who hides your contribution. You pay bills, solve crises, protect their image. In public, they speak like they're self-made and self-funded. If something breaks, suddenly we decided badly, and you executed poorly. The truth is simple but painful. Predators don't just steal money, they steal narrative. They steal credit. They steal the story that creates power. Rich and strategic people understand this at a brutal level. In the money game, they watch who tries to plug into their leverage points too quickly, who over-volunteers for sensitive tasks, who hoards information while pretending to be helpful. Someone who insists on handling all the numbers but never explains them is not efficient. They're building a private throne inside your castle. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. What you're about to discover in the next patterns is exactly how to spot who is riding your grind, redirecting your effort into their account, and quietly constructing a separate power base off your back before they strike openly. The core law, behavior over words, Patterns over moments. So, here's the brutal law that runs underneath all of this. You do not judge loyalty by how someone talks to you when things are calm. You judge it by how they behave around you over time, especially when money, status, or reputation are on the line. Under pressure, the mask slips. Under pressure, the real rules they play by appear. Think carefully about this. The average person gets seduced by moments. The tearful apology, the dramatic declaration of support, the long paragraph about how they would never betray you. The truth is simple but painful. Predators understand that words are cheap. They weaponize emotion as camouflage, while their behavior quietly positions them for leverage against you. Powerful people do the opposite. They watch patterns. They build what Machiavelli would call a behavioral ledger. How does this person act when nothing is at stake? How do they talk about you when they think you're not listening? How do they treat people below them when there is no benefit on the table? That normal mode is their baseline. Any sharp deviation from that baseline is not random. It is signal. Here's something nobody wants to admit. In power dynamics research, behavioral consistency over time beats emotional intensity every single time. The colleague who stays steady, keeps your name clean in rooms you're not in, and makes the same choice in small conflicts year after year, is safer than the one who cries, swears loyalty, then flips their story every time the wind changes. Consistency is boring, but in a predatory game, boring is wealth and safety. This is forbidden strategy. You stop getting hypnotized by isolated incidents and start reading recurring patterns. The 9 behaviors you're about to walk through are not about one-off mistakes. Everyone slips. Everyone has a bad day. What exposes a two-faced person is repetition. The same type of gossip. The same subtle status jabs. The same convenient confusions about credit and blame whenever power is being distributed. Think of it like this. A single data point tells you nothing. A sequence reveals allegiance. When you see 3, 5, 10 instances of the same maneuver, you are no longer looking at coincidence. You are looking at strategy. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet about how traitors test your boundaries long before they cross them openly. So as we go through each of the 9 patterns, your job is simple but ruthless. You will scan your circle in silence. For each behavior, you will count how many times a name flashes in your mind. No speeches. No confrontations. Just quiet scoring, because by the end, you will know exactly who in your life is a potential wolf wearing your colors, and the next pattern will show you the first crack they almost always reveal before they strike. From prey to watcher, installing the predator lens. So from this point on, you stop acting like prey. You stop walking through your own life with your guard down, assuming shared values, shared loyalty, shared reality. Predators don't do that. Predators don't roar, they watch. Calm, quiet, patient, they collect information long before they grant access to their time, their trust, or their secrets. Look at how the rich move in the money game. They don't announce who's in their inner circle. They test. They observe. They let people talk, expose their motives, reveal their patterns. The average victim does the opposite. They overshare, overtrust, and then cry betrayal when the obvious snake finally bites. Here's something nobody wants to admit. You were warned by their behavior the entire time. You just refused to see it. So for the rest of this video, you adopt a new identity. You are not friend, son, partner, employee. Those are emotional labels. They cloud vision. You are a watcher. Everyone around you is reduced to behaviors and incentives. What do they consistently do? What do they consistently want? The truth is simple but painful. Loyalty is not what they say they feel about you. It's what they stand to lose by crossing you. Think carefully about this. When you strip away the labels, patterns become obvious. The supportive colleague who only checks on you when your performance drops. The mentor who praises you in private but subtly steals credit in public. The loyal friend who always brings gossip but never brings defense when your name is attacked. You're not judging them morally. You're mapping risk. Now install the predator lens with a simple exercise. Imagine you lost everything tonight. Money gone. Status erased. No leverage. No access. Who would still return your calls? Who would slowly drift into the distance with polite excuses? And who would circle you like vultures, offering fake help while scavenging whatever reputation contacts, or secrets you have left. Sit with those faces. That discomfort is data. This is forbidden strategy because it kills your favorite illusion that betrayal is random. It isn't. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Power is almost always attacked from the inside, by people once trusted and rewarded. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Powerful people obsess over early detection so damage stays contained, controlled, and predictable. Understand clearly, this lens is not about attacking people. You are not starting wars. You are refusing to be surprised. You are building a life where snakes can move, but only inside fences you designed. They can gossip, but not about anything that can destroy you. They can leave, but they cannot take your foundation with them. Because what you're about to discover in the first behavioral pattern is subtle, common, and almost always dismissed as just personality. That's exactly why predators use it. That's exactly why wolves from sheep blur together until it's too late. In the next section, you'll learn how they hide behind charm, warmth, and harmless habits that quietly test your boundaries while you're busy feeling safe. Pattern #1, the asymmetric listener. They collect. You confess pattern number 1 is quiet, polite, and deadly. The asymmetric listener. The person who turns every interaction into an extraction. You walk away feeling heard. They walk away holding a loaded file on your life. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most people hand over power with their mouth. You talk to feel close, to feel relief, to feel understood. Predators talk to make you talk more. They ask deep questions about your fears, your plans, your conflicts, your money. Then, when it's their turn, fog, deflection, jokes. It's complicated. They open you like a book while staying shut like a vault. Think carefully about this. A person who knows your biggest fear, your relationship problems, your career frustrations, and your financial pressure has leverage. They know exactly where to press if they ever want control. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. Information is ammunition. Two-faced people build a private archive on you long before they strike. They collect screenshots, stories, small confessions, tiny slips. You feel safe because they never judge. The truth is simple but painful. They're not judging out loud because they're saving the judgment for later, when it buys them power. Look at the coworker who always wants your take on office politics. So what do you really think about the manager? Who do you trust on the team? You answer. You vent. You reveal. But when you ask back, and you? They stay blurry. I just keep my head down. Everyone's doing their best. Publicly neutral, privately informed. When promotion time comes and a rumor magically appears that you're difficult or not a team player, guess who fed the system while their own record stayed clean? Or the friend who knows every fight in your relationship, every argument over money, sex, respect, loyalty. They know your partner's weaknesses and your worst moments. But their life? Nothing. We're fine. You know how it is. No details. No vulnerability. If the friendship ever sours, suddenly your secrets circulate, your reputation bleeds, and they stand there looking shocked, pretending they heard it from someone else. That's not an accident, that's strategy. So how do you test an asymmetric listener without starting a war? Simple, you mirror. Start answering their probing questions with the same vagueness they use on you. It's complicated, still figuring it out, nothing major. Then flip it back on them and stay silent. Watch the discomfort. Watch how fast they push, rephrase, dig. Snakes hate information droughts because it starves future manipulation. If your silence makes them restless, irritated, or suddenly less close to you, you just exposed the game. Rich and powerful people understand this instinctively. They clock anyone who shows obsessive curiosity about their private life, their money, their future moves. The rich will talk for an hour and reveal nothing real. They redirect to ideas, abstractions, safe stories. Their true vulnerabilities stay buried behind lawyers, structures, and silence. This is forbidden strategy in the money game. Guard your file, read everyone else's. In the next pattern, you'll see what happens when that same person stops just listening and starts quietly steering your decisions, while you still think every choice is your own. Pattern #2, the selective chameleon. Different face, different room. That's when pattern 2 appears. The selective chameleon. Different face, different room. Same mouth, different master. They don't just listen and steer your choices. They rearrange their entire personality depending on who holds the most power in the moment. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most people shapeshift a little. You speak differently to your boss than to your brother. That's normal adaptation. The selective chameleon is different. They don't adjust tone. They adjust morals. In every room, they mirror the dominant energy, the dominant status, the dominant narrative, because their only real value is access to power. Think carefully about this. With you, they are outraged on your behalf. I can't believe they treated you like that. In another room, with the same people who undercut you, they nod along, soften your side, even laugh when someone makes a joke at your expense. You trade trust for what you think is loyalty. They trade loyalty for leverage. The truth is simple but painful. This person has no core, no spine, no fixed alignment. They are not loyal to you or to any principle. They are loyal to the current source of advantage. This is how predators move in the social game, smiling at every table, collecting secrets from every side, always ready to abandon the weaker party the second the balance of power shifts. Look at the average victim of betrayal. They remember all the private moments where the chameleon agreed with them, supported them, hyped them up. What they never saw was the other room, where that same person reframed shared plans as your idea when it failed, but our idea when it worked. Success becomes communal. Failure becomes your personal flaw. They rise while you absorb the damage. Here's what you're about to discover if you start watching closely. The chameleon doesn't just change opinions. They change ownership. In front of you, we decided. In front of power, I warned them, but they insisted. They hedge every outcome so that whichever way the result lands, they stand next to the winner and away from the blast radius. So how do you expose them early? You run a controlled experiment, deliberately share a mild, slightly unpopular opinion with them. Nothing extreme, just something that goes against the average view in your circle. Then you wait. Watch how they present it in a different group. Do they own it as we were talking about this? Do they soften it into something safer? Or do they blame you completely and distance themselves the second there's pushback? That reaction is your report card. Consistency under small social pressure predicts behavior under real stakes. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Rich, strategic people run these integrity tests quietly, long before money, power, or reputation are on the line. Because the next pattern is darker. It's no longer about shifting faces to survive the room. It's about engineering conflict between rooms so they can climb the ladder over your body while you're still defending their name. Pattern Hack 3. The gossip broker they trade other people's heads for access. Pattern Hack 3 is where the mask starts drawing blood. This is the gossip broker. The person who walks into every room carrying other people's heads on a silver tray, then tells you it's just honesty or looking out for you. Think carefully about this. They never show up with respect. They show up with intel. They don't defend anyone in their absence. They don't balance the story. Their entire value proposition is, I know what everyone else is doing wrong. That's not insight. That's a sales pitch. And the product is other people's reputations. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Chronic gossip is not harmless venting. In power dynamics research, the people who constantly trade negative stories are significantly more likely to engage in sabotage, backstabbing, and impression management for personal gain. In the money game, that's exactly how low-level predators climb. They can't outwork, outthink, or outperform, so they weaponize narrative. They poison the room until someone falls, then step into the gap. You think they're giving you an advantage. Thanks for the warning. Good to know what she's really like. You feel special, selected, inside the circle. But the truth is simple but painful if they are selling everyone else's name to you. You are also inventory. You are not the client. You are stock on the shelf. The only question is when and to whom they'll sell you. Look at the average worker in a toxic office. He thinks gossip is just culture, harmless noise near the coffee machine. Meanwhile, promotions, money, and power get allocated based on whispered narratives, not actual performance. Careers are destroyed in conversations that never include the person being discussed. That's not drama. That's low-grade treason. So how do you test a gossip broker without starting a war? Simple. Next time they attack someone, gently praise the target. I've actually seen them handle pressure pretty well. Then, stay silent. Watch. A snake doesn't pause and reconsider. They double down. They shift from complaining about behavior to assassinating character. If that fails, they pivot to you. You're too trusting. You don't see how people really are. Translation, you're naive for not joining the execution. Here's the pattern interrupt. Stop calling this venting. Stop calling it tea. Label it correctly. This is rehearsal. Every time they practice tearing someone apart who isn't in the room, they are sharpening the blade they will one day use on you. This is forbidden strategy in social form. Win status without merit by quietly turning allies into suspects. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Rich, strategic people don't tolerate gossip brokers near their core. They quarantine them, feed them decoys, and never expose real leverage. Because the next pattern goes one step further, from private poison to public positioning, where they don't just talk about conflict, they manufacture it for profit. Pattern 4, the credit thief and blame artist. Your work, their story pattern hack 4, is where the mask stops being a costume and becomes a weapon. Up to now, they were just moving information. Here, they start moving identity. Not just what people know, but who gets remembered as powerful, competent, valuable, and they plan for that person not to be you. Here's something nobody wants to admit. In power games, credit is currency and blame is toxic debt. The rich understand this instinctively. Average people think credit is about ego. Predators know it's about leverage. The credit thief and blame artist is the one quietly trading your future for their status, one story at a time. Watch their language. When they talk up the chain, your work becomes we. We closed that client. We built that system. But when they talk sideways or down, the pronouns mutate. Suddenly, problems are you. Yeah, that delay was on them. They dropped the ball on that feature. Wins dissolve into a collective blur. Losses get laser targeted onto your name. Think carefully about this. A person who constantly shifts between we on the way up and you on the way down is running a quiet insurance policy. They are rehearsing a future where, when the pressure spikes, you become the designated sacrifice. They keep the promotion, the reputation, the wealth. You keep the blame. Picture the co-founder who hears your idea, nods, then walks into the investor meeting and sells it like it fell out of their brain in the shower. You sit there watching your concept, your numbers, your strategy, being praised while your name never lands on the table. Or the manager who forgets to mention you in a project win, but remembers your name perfectly when there's a complaint to explain. That's not forgetfulness, that's allocation. The truth is simple but painful. If they steal your narrative when the stakes are small, they will steal your safety when the stakes are real. In Machiavelli's world, this is how conspiracies start. Not with open betrayal, but with a pattern of stories where one person is always the competent savior and another is always the convenient mistake. So, how do you test them without starting a war? You use controlled correction. In the moment, calmly adjust the record, in front of them and in front of witnesses. Just to be precise, that framework was something I designed last quarter, said without heat, without apology. Then you shut up and watch. Do they immediately support the correction, reinforce your contribution, redirect praise accurately? Or do you see the micro-flinch, the tight jaw, the irritated eyes, the dismissive shrug? Do they rush to smooth it over, or do they subtly punish you later for making them look bad? That reaction is your forecast under pressure. What you're about to discover is that this is forbidden strategy used against you every day. The game isn't rigged, you just don't know the real rules yet. Because the next pattern goes beyond stealing credit. It moves into direct power positioning, building separate alliances behind your back while smiling in your face, so that when the knife finally lands, the room is already on their side. Pattern #5. The parallel power base. They build a second circle around your assets. Pattern number 5 is subtle, and that's why it's lethal. They don't attack your position directly. They build a second one, around you, using your own power as scaffolding for their escape route. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most betrayals are not emotional explosions. They are construction projects. Quiet, patient, methodical. The snake doesn't just flip one day. They've been laying bricks for months, using your contacts, your status, your credibility, until the moment they don't need you anymore. Then they walk away with half your kingdom and pretend it's just business. Watch how it starts. They over-volunteer, always for roles that touch your core assets. Let me manage that client. I'll handle your calendar. Loop me into that group chat so I can help. It sounds loyal. It feels supportive. You're busy. You're tired. You're flattered. You hand them the keys because you think effort equals loyalty. The truth is simple but painful. Access is not devotion. Access is leverage. At first, they copy you on everything. Then, slowly, messages stop including you. Calls happen without you. Your top client starts saying, "Oh yeah, we already talked about that with him." Your friend mentions, "We were all hanging out with her the other night. You should have come, but you never heard about it." That's not logistics. That's architecture. They are building a parallel power base. Think carefully about this. Ambition isn't the problem. You want ambitious people around you. The red flag is secrecy and exclusion. When there are meetings you're not invited to, side chats you're not told about, and narratives about you that you're not part of, understand what's happening. They are shifting loyalty flows. They are testing how much of your network they can detach from you without resistance. You see it in business. The employee who goes above and beyond for your top 3 clients. They start texting directly. Inside jokes, late responses that no longer copy you. 6 months later, they resign on Friday, and by Monday, those same clients have decided to follow them. You didn't lose clients. You lost the silent power game that was being played right under your nose. You see it socially. The friend who knows exactly who undermines you then somehow becomes closer to your enemies than to you. Dinners without you. Stories about you told in rooms where you have no voice. By the time you feel the distance, their new circle has already decided who the villain is. Hint, it's never them. How do rich and strategic people contain this? They don't cut access instantly. They control it. They give these operators limited, compartmentalized exposure and then seed small, trackable pieces of information, a detail about a potential deal, a private frustration, a fake timeline. Then they watch. Where does that detail surface? Who quotes it back? How is it weaponized? This is forbidden strategy, quiet surveillance instead of blind trust. Because the game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. And what you're about to discover next isn't about who they meet behind your back, but what happens when you win in front of them, and why their reaction to your success is the loudest tell of all. Pattern hack 6. The fragile cheerleader, they clap until you pass them. Pattern hack 6 is brutal because it hides behind smiles. The fragile cheerleader, they clap for you loudly, obsessively when you're broken, struggling, or safely beneath them. But the second you start to win, the applause dies. The room goes cold. And you feel it before you can explain it. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Not everyone in your circle can psychologically survive your elevation. Some people only feel powerful when you are the weaker one. As long as you're the underdog, they get to play savior, advisor, mentor, the generous friend. The moment your results outgrow their status, the power flips. And fragile egos do not tolerate losing power. The truth is simple, but painful. Real allies expand when you expand. When you rise, they feel richer, not poorer. They lean in, ask questions, look for ways to add leverage to your new position. Snakes do the opposite. They feel threatened. They minimize your achievements, reframe your success as luck, privilege, timing. It's just a phase. Anything that keeps you small in their head so they don't have to confront their own stagnation. Think carefully about this. You get a promotion, and suddenly the friend who always had time stops inviting you out. Your calendar fills with work. Their calendar fills with silent resentment. You level up your body, and your partner starts joking that you're getting too big for your boots every time you hit a new target. Those aren't jokes. That's status anxiety trying to drag you back into a box they can control. Watch the language shift. When you were losing, they said, "You've got this. I believe in you." When you start winning, it becomes, "Don't let it go to your head, relax. It's not that deep. You just got lucky this time." This is forbidden strategy from predators in your circle. Keep you doubting your power so you never fully step into it. They need you as the grateful victim of their support, not the rival who no longer needs them. So how do you detect it early? Simple observation. When you share a win, Who asks detailed questions with real curiosity? Who wants to know the numbers, the process, the strategy, because they respect the work? And who changes the subject, makes it about themselves? Or starts talking about someone doing even better than you? Who goes quiet in group settings when your success is mentioned, like your progress is an inconvenience to their narrative? Pattern interrupt. Stop excusing this as they're just going through something. No, you are watching early-stage resentment form. The seed of future betrayal. Machiavelli would tell you, a person who cannot emotionally tolerate your rise will eventually try to limit it, sabotage it, or distance from it. Today it's a sarcastic comment. Tomorrow it's gossip. Next year it's active obstruction when real money or status is on the line. Because the game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. And the next pattern you need to see isn't about envy when you rise, but what they do when you fall, and who secretly enjoys your collapse enough to keep you there. Pattern #7, the perpetual victim. They weaponize weakness to escape accountability. Pattern #7 is where the mask starts to crack. When you fall, when you're under pressure, this person doesn't rise to support you. They sink into one role that gives them maximum power with minimum responsibility, the perpetual victim. Here's something nobody wants to admit. The most dangerous predators in your circle rarely roar. They whimper. They don't attack you head-on, they drain you sideways, one excuse, one crisis, one emotional meltdown at a time. On paper, they look weak. In practice, they control the entire game. The perpetual victim has one core belief: nothing is ever their fault. Every conflict, someone misunderstood them. Every mistake, their parents, their trauma, their ex, the economy, the universe. Every broken promise. You don't understand what I'm going through. Notice the pattern. Infinite pain. Zero responsibility. Think carefully about this. You work. You plan. You carry your own weight. They tell stories. They collect sympathy like rich people collect assets. The truth is simple but painful. That poor me narrative is not random. It's strategy. It's how a two-faced person dodges accountability while still extracting your time, your money, your emotional energy. Watch how they move when it's time to repay. There's always a crisis. The friend who suddenly has a medical emergency, a family disaster, a mental breakdown the exact week the money is due. The colleague who agrees to a deadline, then, when their performance is questioned, instantly collapses into tears, panic, or rage. You end up apologizing to the person who failed you. That's not weakness, that's leverage. What you're about to discover is brutal. Victimhood can be weaponized. They use it to reset the rules of the relationship. You become the strong one, the responsible one, the rich one, emotionally. They become the fragile exception who must never be pushed, never be asked for results, never be held to the same standard as the average person. In that imbalance, they gain power over you. How do you detect them before real damage hits your money, your reputation, your peace? You don't argue with their story. You test their behavior. Gently hold a boundary. Ask for a clear commitment with a clear timeline. Then watch. Do they step up, take ownership, and follow through? Or do they instantly escalate drama, guilt, tears, and emotional chaos to escape responsibility? This is forbidden strategy, the rich and powerful use. They don't debate feelings, they measure consistency. A person who always has a reason, but never has a result, is telling you exactly who they are. Believe it, because the game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. And the next pattern is the most dangerous of all, because it's not about what they cry to you, flatter you with, or confess in private. It's about what they never say in public when you're not in the room. Pattern #8, the silent non-defender. They never bleed for you in the room that matters. Pattern #8, the silent non-defender. The person who smiles in your face, drains your support, feeds on your advice, then turns into a ghost the second your name has a cost. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most snakes don't attack you directly. They just refuse to bleed for you. They sit still while the knife goes in. They don't want to get involved. They stay out of drama. It sounds neutral. It isn't. In power dynamics, silence is a decision. Silence is alignment. The silent non-defender is the one who nods with you in private, agrees you were right, tells you your strategy is sharp. They call you when they need leverage, when they want your brain, your time, your money. But when you're not in the room and the real game starts, they disappear. You get attacked. They go mute. You get undermined. They stare at the table. Think carefully about this. Loyalty is not measured where it's comfortable. Loyalty is measured where it's expensive. When defending you risks social capital, status, or proximity to power, that's the only courtroom that matters. If they never risk even mild friction to stand beside your name, they are not on your side. They are renting you. They are protecting their position, not your reputation. Picture the office. Your boss tears into you for a result you didn't control, publicly, aggressively, to establish dominance. The colleague who has your back, he watches, says nothing. Later he messages you, "That was rough. I agree it wasn't your fault." That's not support. That's post-event damage control to keep access to you while staying safe with the boss. He chose power over you when the cost was real. Or the friend at the gathering. Someone throws a disrespectful joke at your expense, twists a story to make you look weak, questions your money, your work, your integrity. Your loyal friend laughs nervously, changes the subject, or vanishes to the bar. Then later, "I thought it was out of line." The truth is simple, but painful. If they didn't challenge it when it built their status to stay quiet. They agreed with the predators in the room. Rich, strategic people run tests. This is forbidden strategy, but it separates wolves from sheep. You drop a controlled, mild, unflattering rumor about yourself into the ecosystem, something you know will circulate. Nothing catastrophic, just enough to trigger gossip. Then you wait. Do they correct it? Do they push back? Or do they stay conveniently neutral, harvesting information while your name takes the hit? What you're about to discover is that the most dangerous two-faced people don't just fail these tests. They talk obsessively about principles, loyalty, and morality, while quietly breaking every rule in practice. And that final pattern doesn't just expose them. It forces you to decide which side of the game you're really on. Pattern #9, the moral preacher, loud values. Quiet integrity pattern #9 is the one that feels safest on the surface and costs you the most when you ignore it. This is the moral preacher, the person who talks non-stop about loyalty, honesty, and realness, and uses morality the way rich predators use money and status, as a weapon. They flood the room with values. They rant about integrity. They publicly condemn people for tiny slip-ups. Someone is 5 minutes late? Disrespectful, someone forgets to reply? Fake, they write long posts about loyalty, about never betraying your circle, about how they hate snakes. They love visible outrage. They love public virtue. They need an audience. Here's something nobody wants to admit. The louder someone advertises their morals, the more you should suspect their motives. The truth is simple but painful. Most people who constantly talk about their values are not trying to be good. They're trying to look safe. It's a costume, a shield, a way to disarm suspicion so they can move closer to power without resistance. Think carefully about this. In the money game, the most effective traitor is the one who looks like the guardian of the rules. The friend who posts quotes about loyalty, then leaks your private screenshots the second it benefits their image. The colleague who rants about fair treatment in meetings, then quietly sabotages competitors, feeding rumors to management while preaching unity in public. They weaponize morality for leverage. What you're about to discover is that this isn't random hypocrisy, it's strategy. By over-signaling values, they create a moral credit score in people's minds. She would never do that. She's all about honesty. That assumption is their camouflage. It buys them trust they have not earned, access they do not deserve, and proximity to your plans, your money, your weaknesses. Pattern interrupt. Stop listening to speeches. You've heard enough words in your life. From now on, you ignore what they declare and track what they do when nobody is watching, when it's inconvenient, when there is no applause. Do they keep confidences when leaking would give them status? Do they admit fault when silence would protect their image? Do they apply the same harsh standards to themselves that they throw at everyone else? If the answer is no, you're not dealing with a moral person. You're dealing with a moral costume. And costumes come off the moment betrayal pays better than loyalty. Your move is simple. Downgrade anyone who needs to constantly advertise their integrity. Reduce their access. Lower your expectations. Stop giving them sensitive information. Upgrade the quiet ones whose actions line up, again and again, without speeches, without performance. That's how you separate wolves from sheep before the knife appears. Because the game isn't rigged, you just don't know the real rules yet. How the rich use these 9 patterns, quiet tests, not loud accusations. Rich people heard that line and smiled. Because they already live by it. They don't argue with snakes. They don't lecture traitors. They don't host emotional interventions. They adjust access, tighten the gate, and let time do the exposing. Here's something nobody wants to admit. The rich almost never confront suspected two-faced people head-on. That's what the average worker does. He feels a shift in energy, gets triggered, starts a fight, blows up the relationship, and loses both information and leverage. The rich do the opposite. They go quiet. They stop feeding you power, stop feeding you secrets, and start running silent tests while you think nothing has changed. Think carefully about this. Power doesn't scream. Power observes. When a billionaire senses disloyalty, he doesn't shout, "Are you betraying me?" He reduces your access to money, reduces your access to decisions, and watches what you do when the benefits shrink. Do you stay disciplined, or do you start gossiping, leaking, sabotaging, trying to claw back status through side doors? This is where integrity tests come in. The truth is simple but painful. How someone handles a small temptation under no pressure is how they will handle a massive temptation under real pressure. So the rich create low-stakes scenarios. A small amount of money left untracked in a drawer, a minor expense account that isn't scrutinized, a tiny opportunity to take more than you were offered. They don't care about the amount, they care about the pattern. They do the same with information. What you're about to discover is how they weaponize stories. They tell one version of a story to person A, a slightly altered version to person B, and a third to person C. Then they wait. When the story resurfaces, they know exactly which channel leaked, how it was twisted, and who added poison. No confrontation, just data. This is forbidden strategy in the money game. Share a small confidential detail that wouldn't destroy you if it spread, but would clearly mark a betrayal if it did. Watch who suddenly knows it. Watch who starts treating you differently. Now you're not guessing. You're mapping predators from victims, wolves from sheep. By behavior, not by speeches. Understand the aim. The goal isn't to play childish gotcha games. The goal is to chart true character early, then position people accordingly. Those who pass the tests get pulled closer to the center, given more access, more trust, more upside. Those who fail stay in the outer ring, useful but contained, never near the real levers of power. In the next sections, you'll see how the rich turn this into architecture, an inner circle, a middle circle, and an expendable outer ring, so snakes never sit close enough to touch the throne, let alone take it. Designing your circle like a fortress, inner, middle, and outer rings, so now you stop thinking about friends and start thinking about architecture. You don't run a social life, you run a fortress. Inner ring, middle ring, outer ring. Different access, different risk, different leverage. Here's something nobody wants to admit. The rich don't put people close because of shared memories or emotional intensity. They put people close because of predictable behavior under pressure. They design their circle like a castle, a throne room, an inner courtyard, and a noisy marketplace outside the walls. Most of the average stay in the marketplace, smiling, talking, but never touching real power. The inner ring is brutal in its standards. Full trust, full access. These are the few who can see your real numbers, your real weaknesses, your real plans. They can move money, influence decisions, affect your reputation with a single sentence. One traitor here and you're finished. That's why the truth is simple but painful. Time known means nothing. Shared trauma means nothing. Only consistent patterns and aligned incentives decide who gets inside. The middle ring is different. Functional allies. You work with them, you do deals with them, you share selective information, never the whole map. If they turn, they can hurt you, but they can't kill the empire. They get benefits, but never keys. Controlled access. Controlled risk. Controlled exposure. The outer ring is where almost everyone belongs. Pleasant, useful, entertaining, you shake hands, you smile, you trade surface value. But they never see leverage points. They never hear strategic secrets. They never get the chance to pull a hidden knife, because you never give them a throat to reach. Think carefully about this. Most people invert the model. They give inner ring access based on years known, family labels, or emotional highs. Then they act shocked when the cousin who would never leaks information, or the friend from school sells them out at work. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. What you're about to discover is how those 9 behavioral patterns become your sorting mechanism. Chronic gossip, that person never leaves the outer ring, no matter how long you've known them. You still meet, you still smile, but you stop feeding them sensitive information. You downgrade them from inner to middle, or from middle to outer, by one simple move. You cut their access. Ambitious but slippery colleague who flatters you in private and rewrites history in meetings, middle ring, at best. Strictly professional. You use their drive for results, but you never let them near your core alliances, your real wealth, or your unfiltered thoughts. They can chase status in the hallway, not in the war room. This is forbidden strategy. You don't announce emotions. You just quietly move people outward and let their behavior confirm your decision. In the next section, you'll see how the rich go even further, building a circle so strategically aligned that betrayal stops being emotional drama and starts being economically irrational. What happens when turning on you means they lose more than they gain. Aligned incentives, making betrayal the worst deal they could take. So how do the rich answer that question? They rig the math. They design relationships where turning on them is financial suicide, where loyalty isn't emotional, it's profitable, where betrayal doesn't just feel wrong, it pays worse. That's what aligned incentives actually are, a structure where people win more by staying with you than by selling you out, even when predators whisper in their ear. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Most of your relationships are built on vibes, not structure. You trust people because you like them, because they talk well, because you've known them for years. The rich don't do that. They trust the contract, the upside, the way the money game is wired. They know the game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Think carefully about this. Rich people tie rewards, opportunities, and status to long arcs, not one-off favors. You get the big bonus only if you stay 3 years. You get equity that vests over time, not cash that walks out tomorrow. You get introduced to their network only after you've protected their name in rooms they weren't in. They stretch the reward into the future, so short-term betrayal looks like burning your own lottery ticket. Look at the average worker. Flat salary, no profit share, no real upside if the company wins. So when a competitor offers a tiny raise to leak secrets, the temptation feels rational. There's nothing to lose. Now contrast that with profit sharing. If the business grows, you get a slice. If the project hits, your percentage spikes. Sabotage stops being drama and starts being self-harm. What you're about to discover is simple. You can build this in your own circle. Offer shared upside in projects instead of one-time payments. Give people a visible stake in the win. If your brand grows, their brand grows. Publicly associate in ways that tie reputations together. When things go well, both names rise. Suddenly, trashing you in private means dragging their own status into the dirt. But alignment isn't blind. You still watch. Quietly, who brings opportunities back after you send them one? Who only takes? Who protects your name when you're not in the room? And who stays silent while others tear you down? Who invests time, money, and effort when you invest, and who disappears until it's payout time? Pattern interrupt. Stop expecting loyalty from structures that reward betrayal. If someone loses nothing by selling you out, why are you shocked when they do? Redesign the deal. Add downside for disloyalty and upside for staying in the game. In the next section, you'll see how to run subtle pressure tests on people inside these structures, so snakes expose themselves long before they think the strike is safe. Boundaries as detection tools. Saying no to see who you're really dealing with, so now you redesign the deal. But how do you redesign the people? You can't. You can only reveal them. And here's something nobody wants to admit. The fastest way to see who's two-faced is not by being generous, it's by saying no. Snakes love the person who never refuses. Unlimited access, unlimited extraction, no resistance. You think you're buying loyalty with constant yes. In reality, you're just training predators to see you as a soft target. The truth is simple but painful. Boundaries are not just protection. They are X-rays. Every no you give lights up what someone secretly believes they're owed from you. Think carefully about this. A genuine ally hears your boundary and recalculates. A hidden enemy hears your boundary and feels robbed. Same word, different soul. That's why rich, strategic people don't wait for a big betrayal. They run small pressure tests, controlled refusals. Low-risk knows that expose high-risk characters. You don't start with a dramatic cutoff. You start with friction. You decline a favor you would usually do. You delay a response instead of jumping instantly. You reduce access slightly, less time, less emotional labor, less free coverage. Then you go silent and watch. Do they respect the new rule, or do they turn sour the second your compliance stops feeding them? Picture the friend who calls you only when they need help moving, money, or emotional rescue. For months you say yes. One day you say, can't do it this time. If what you're about to discover is real loyalty, they'll adjust, solve their own problem, and the relationship stays level. If it's entitlement dressed as affection, the mask rips. They explode, they guilt trip, they start listing everything they've ever done for you as if you're in debt to their existence. That's not friendship. That's a predator angry the victim stopped lying still. Look at the average colleague who leans on you to fix their mistakes. You cover for them, rewrite their work, protect their image. Then, you stop. You say, you'll have to handle this one. Watch what happens next. The loyal one struggles, learns, maybe stumbles, but owns it. The snake starts whispering. Suddenly, your name appears in gossip. They've changed. They're selfish now. That shift from private dependence to public attack is an early betrayal pattern. Log it. You need records, not vibes. When you enforce a boundary, write down what they did, not what they said. Calm acceptance and problem solving are green flags. Neutral, stable. Safe to give more leverage over time. Guilt-tripping, sulking, silent treatment, or subtle retaliation. Those are red lights flashing months before the open strike. This is forbidden strategy in human form. You are stress-testing loyalty the way investors stress-test assets. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. In the next section, you'll see how to extend this beyond direct interactions and quietly monitor the conversations and narratives built around your name without turning into a paranoid prisoner of every whisper. Quiet surveillance, how powerful people track their name in other people's mouths. Rich people don't sit around asking, so, what are people saying about me? That's what the insecure do. The rich construct something colder and smarter, quiet surveillance. Not cameras, not paranoia. An invisible web of information that keeps them 3 moves ahead of snakes. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Powerful people almost never rely on one direct report, one loyal friend, one source of truth. They build loose information webs, multiple independent people in different rooms with different incentives who naturally feed back what's being said. Not because they're ordered to spy, but because the relationship is maintained, respected, and strategically useful. You, on the other hand, drift. You talk to whoever is in front of you. You treat conversations like entertainment instead of data. The truth is simple but painful. In the money game, information is leverage. If you don't know how your name travels through other people's mouths, you're not a player, you're a victim. So what you're about to discover is not gossip, it's surveillance with discipline. You maintain relationships across different groups, the junior staff and the senior ones, the loud social circle and the quiet observers, the fun friend and the serious operator. You listen more than you speak. You let people talk themselves into revealing how stories move when you're not in the room. Think carefully about this. You're at dinner and a situation comes up, a deal you did, a conflict at work, a decision you made. You don't jump in to correct the record. Instead, you ask a neutral question. How was that described to you? Then you shut up. The wording they repeat is gold. Who framed you as decisive? Who framed you as reckless? Who edited you out of your own win? Watch for patterns, not one-off slips. You hear 3 different versions of the same story. In version 1, you barely exist. In version 2, you're the problem. In version 3, your idea magically became someone else's initiative. That's not random. That's narrative theft. That's quiet slander. That's how predators soften your position before a strike. This is forbidden strategy when you use it right. You're not stalking every whisper. You're collecting enough signal to see consistent misrepresentation, minimization, or subtle attacks. You don't confront every distortion. You log it. Who never defends you when you're not there? Who always brings you other people's secrets, but never mentions how you're being framed? The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Rich people track their reputation like an asset on a balance sheet. They spot the accountant cooking the books long before the audit. But once you confirm someone is two-faced, the real test begins. How do you move against them without detonating your entire social ecosystem? In the next section, you'll learn why your first instinct is usually the most expensive mistake you can make. Contain, don't confront. Neutralizing snakes without starting a war. So here's the pivot you're not used to making. Once you confirm someone is two-faced, your mission is not to expose them in some glorious showdown. Your mission is colder. Make them irrelevant to your money, your power, your outcomes. You don't need revenge, you need control. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Powerful people almost never blow up snakes publicly. They box them in. They shrink their surface area. They turn a potential predator into background noise. That's containment. Not drama, not speeches. Silent restructuring of who gets access to what. You watch the average person chase confrontation while the rich quietly rearrange the board. Containment means you cut them out of the information bloodstream that feeds your leverage. Sensitive plans no longer pass through them. Critical updates skip their inbox. You reassign responsibilities so they don't touch money, data, or key relationships. On paper, nothing looks hostile. In reality, their influence is being suffocated in slow motion. Think about how this looks in real life. The snake used to sit in every strategy meeting. Suddenly, that meeting is streamlined and they're not required. They used to run the client relationship that actually matters. You diversify contact and put a second person in, then a third, then quietly move the center of gravity away from them. Your messages to them get shorter. Your response times stretch. Calls turn into emails. Emails turn into silence. The truth is simple but painful. Your urge to confront is about ego, not strategy. Direct confrontation is usually a trap. Two-faced people train for that moment. The second you accuse them, they flip the script. They play victim. They cry about being misunderstood. They twist half-truths, leak selective stories, and recruit sympathizers who were never even in the room. Suddenly, your justified reaction becomes the weapon used to paint you as unstable, controlling, or cruel. Think carefully about this. In a status-driven environment, the first person to look emotional usually loses the narrative. And once you lose the narrative, you lose leverage. That's how you end up punished for spotting the betrayal earlier than everyone else. Pattern interrupt. Stop fantasizing about cinematic revenge scenes. This is forbidden strategy. You're not the hero in a courtroom drama, exposing evil under a spotlight. You're a strategist in a rigged arena, closing doors quietly so the snake has nowhere profitable to strike. What you're about to discover is that the highest level move isn't punishing betrayal. It's making betrayal unprofitable. You don't have to destroy them. You just have to remove the upside of crossing you. No access, no intel, no direct line to your reputation or your wealth. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. In the next section, you'll see how truly rich operators go one step further. They turn would-be traitors into useful warning systems and disposable shields. Upgrading your inner ring, how to attract wolves who hunt with you. Not for you turning traitors into shields is defense. Upgrading your inner ring is offense. You don't win this game by surrounding yourself with harmless sheep. Sheep don't betray you, but they also don't protect you, build with you, or pull you into bigger rooms. You're not trying to live in a petting zoo. You're trying to run with predators who won't turn their teeth on you. Here's something nobody wants to admit. You don't need fewer wolves. You need better wolves. The goal isn't to drown your life in soft, agreeable, average people who never challenge you. The goal is to find ambitious, sharp operators whose interests genuinely lock with yours. Same enemies, same direction, same hunger for money, power, and position. They're not safe because they're harmless. They're safe because betraying you would damage their own climb. Healthy predators look different. They tell you hard truths you don't want to hear, and they do it privately, not as a public spectacle. They defend you when you're not in the room, then dissect your blind spots when the door closes. Think carefully about this. The co-founder who gives you credit in rooms you're not in is worth more than 10 people posting support online. The friend who calls you at midnight to tell you you're slipping here, fix it, but still backs you in public? That's a wolf you can build an empire with. The truth is simple but painful if someone has to step on you to rise. You are already marked as a victim in their strategy. Real allies don't need to shrink you to grow. They share upside. They bring you into deals instead of cutting you out. They understand leverage. Two aligned predators hunting together can pull far more money and status than either could alone. When they win, you win. When you win, they don't flinch, sulk, or quietly sabotage. They stay steady. What you're about to discover is that the same 9 patterns you use to detect snakes can be flipped to find these people. You watch how they handle gossip. Do they shut it down or feed on it? You watch how they treat credit. Do they spread it or hoard it? You test boundaries. Do they respect no or keep pushing? You pay attention when you win. Do they stay rooted or start shifting, competing, minimizing? This is forbidden strategy. You separate wolves from sheep by behavior over time, not emotional speeches in the moment. You're not chasing intense loyalty declarations. You're tracking boring consistency. Who avoids gossip every time? Who never leaks your private life for status? Who stays the same when your income jumps? Your brand grows. Your leverage increases. Understand where this is going. The final mindset shift is brutal but freeing. You will never create a circle where betrayal is impossible. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Power doesn't come from fantasy safety. It comes from readiness. In the next section, you'll see how to live as if betrayal is guaranteed and still keep building bigger, faster, and with less fear than everyone around you. Accept the inevitable. Betrayal will happen, but it won't surprise you again, so accept this now. You will be betrayed. Not once. Not rarely. Repeatedly, the moment you step into bigger games of money, status, and power, you stop dealing with harmless amateurs and start dealing with predators. The question isn't, will someone try to cut your throat? The question is, how exposed will you be when they swing? Here's something nobody wants to admit. The rich don't chase a fantasy world where betrayal never happens. They know the truth is simple but painful. In any serious game, everyone is calculating. Everyone is watching leverage. Machiavellian players don't aim for zero betrayal. They aim for zero surprise. They design their life so no single person, no single relationship can collapse the whole structure. Think carefully about this. The average worker gives total control of their income to one employer, total control of their emotional stability to one partner, total control of their social status to one circle. One betrayal and their entire life implodes. That's not bad luck. That's bad strategy. Power comes from assuming the knife is already on its way and building so that when it lands, you bleed but you don't die. This is forbidden strategy, diversified alliances. You never let one supplier, one advisor, one loyal friend become the single gatekeeper to critical information, money, or reputation. You keep redundant systems, multiple accounts, multiple revenue streams, written agreements where the average person relies on verbal promises and feelings. You turn vague loyalty into clear contracts, clear incentives, clear penalties. You never hand one person the full keys to your assets. No single login that controls everything. No single co-founder who can lock you out. No single confidant who knows every secret that could nuke your image. Machiavellian players spread risk the way the rich spread investments. If one piece fails, the empire stumbles, but it doesn't fall. Now understand where the 9 behavioral patterns fit into this. They are not an excuse to live paranoid and isolated. They are radar. They track storms before you see rain. When you spot flattery mixed with quiet resentment, chronic gossip, selective loyalty, shifting stories, you don't scream and cut everyone off. You reposition. You move assets out of their reach. You reduce their access, reduce their leverage, reduce the damage they can do when, not if, they turn. You watch their consistency over time instead of their emotional intensity in the moment. You run small integrity tests. You let them handle low-stakes responsibility and see if they twist, delay, or steal. When your radar pings, you adjust. Calmly, quietly, while the average victim says, "I never saw it coming," you already moved the target. What you're about to discover next is how to turn this into a cold, 24-hour audit of your entire circle. In the next section, you'll get a rapid-fire checklist of all 9 patterns and a concrete action plan to classify every person around you as asset, risk, or active threat. And once you see those labels clearly, you'll never look at your friends the same way again. The 9-pattern radar checklist. Audit your circle in one sitting now. You turn this from theory into surveillance. No more vague bad vibes. You're about to run a cold audit on every person with access to your money, emotions, and reputation. Rapid recap. Asymmetric listener. They mine your secrets and never expose their own. Selective chameleon. They mirror whoever has power in the room. Gossip broker. They trade private information for status. Credit thief. They redirect praise upward to themselves and blame downward to you. Parallel power base. They quietly build their own loyal side group. Fragile cheerleader. They clap loud when you're small and crack when you start to rise. Perpetual victim. Every story makes them the injured party and someone else the villain. Silent non-defender. They vanish when your name is attacked. Moral preacher. They sell virtue in public, violate it in private. Here's something nobody wants to admit. You already know who fits which pattern. You've just been negotiating with your own denial because cutting people off feels expensive. The truth is simple but painful. Keeping predators close is what's actually expensive. In money, in time, in mental bandwidth. Now the process. Take a blank page. Write down the 10 people closest to your cash flow, to your emotional state, and to your public image. Partners, friends, relatives, colleagues, mentors, that helpful connector who always knows everyone's business. If they can touch your bank account, your mood, or your name, they go on the list. No exceptions because of history. Next to each name, score them from 0 to 9. 1 point for every pattern you've seen more than once, not felt, seen, documented in memory. The game isn't rigged, you just don't know the real rules yet. This is forbidden strategy. You're measuring behavior, not stories. How do you read the numbers? A score of 0 to 2 means low risk, not zero risk. You still watch, you still verify, but you don't panic. 3 to 5, that's active volatility. You create distance, reduce access to money, information, and emotional leverage. They don't get unfiltered plans, raw fears, or unguarded moments. 6 or more, that's containment. You treat them as a live threat. No sensitive data, no strategic secrets, no unmonitored access to your circle. Quietly move them out of any position where a single action from them could make you the victim. Think carefully about this. Nostalgia is not a defense. Shared struggle is not a defense. Family is not a defense. The radar does not care how long you've known them, how much you laughed together, or how much they needed you back then. Power only cares about patterns. Pattern interrupt. Pause this video right now. Do the audit. 10 names, 9 patterns, hard scores. When you've seen the numbers in black and white, press play again. What you're about to discover next is how to act on those scores without blowing up your life, while quietly moving from surrounded prey to controlled, protected operator in the money game. From blind target to strategic operator, your new default identity now you've seen the scores. The mask is off. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Your old identity is exactly what those predators were feeding on. You weren't unlucky. You were readable, available, and blind. You used to trust by default. You believed words over patterns. You got blindsided, then told yourself it was bad timing, bad luck, people change. That was the average victim's story. You absorbed losses in money, time, reputation, and called it life. They called it strategy. They were running the game. You were providing the resources. That ends now. From this point, your default identity is different. You are no longer the open target. You are the observer, the tester, the quiet architect of your circle. You don't sit in the middle of relationships anymore. You sit above them, watching flows. Who brings value, who extracts, who disguises extraction as loyalty. Think carefully about this. Rich, powerful people obsess over people risk the way hedge funds obsess over market risk. They know the truth is simple but painful. Money and power don't leak away randomly. They leak through specific mouths, specific hands, specific friends you refused to measure. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. Here's one of those rules. For the next 7 days, every interaction is data. Who asks what? Who wants access to your time, your plans, your contacts? Who suddenly becomes very curious about your new moves? Who says what to whom, and how fast does information travel through your circle? Who shows up only when it's easy, and who appears when it's late, inconvenient, and there's nothing to gain on paper? You are not just being social anymore, you are running live tests. The coworker who always brings you negative intel about others but never defends you in public. Data, the friend who praises you in private, then reframes your ideas as theirs in front of higher status people. Data, behavioral consistency over time now matters more than emotional intensity in the moment. This is forbidden strategy for the average mind, but it's standard operating procedure for people who actually keep their wealth. Understand this clearly. This shift is not about becoming cold. It's about precision. You stop bleeding for people who would never take a cut for you. You stop giving loyalty to mouths that leak. You finally match your effort, your secrets, your protection with people who have proven they can shield it, not sell it. So what's next? You lock this identity in. You stay in this environment, around content that keeps you ruthless about people risk, not nostalgic about old illusions. And you do one more thing. You bring at least one genuinely trusted ally into this frame. Why? Because one trained pair of eyes is powerful. Two trained pairs of eyes turn wolves from sheep. In the next section, you'll see exactly how to do that without tipping off the snakes already watching you. Your immediate move: run the test, protect the bag, upgrade the circle. So here's your move in the next 24 hours, not next month. You don't just think about these patterns, you weaponize them. The average person hears a framework like this, nods, then walks straight back into the same circle that's draining their money, power, and peace. You're not doing that, you're going tactical. First step, you run the 9-pattern audit on your actual life. Not in theory. You sit down, write out the names of the people who have real access to you, and you score them against what you've just learned. Who flatters up and punches down? Who gossips but never defends? Who shifts stories when pressure hits? Think carefully about this, because the truth is simple but painful. The person who feels off is almost never random. It's data your nervous system has been collecting while your ego kept making excuses. Next, you adjust at least one boundary, not 10. 1. You reduce one snake's access to sensitive information or leverage. That means no more early access to your plans, your numbers, your weak spots. You stop venting to the person who secretly enjoys your chaos. You stop telling your next move to the one who always accidentally leaks it. You don't announce this shift. You just close the gate and watch. Predators react when supply gets cut. Their behavior will confirm everything. Then you do the opposite move. You choose one person who consistently passes the patterns, and you move them one ring inward. The quiet operator who never sells you out in a group. The friend who doesn't join gossip, who protects your name when you're not in the room. You give that person slightly more access, slightly more upside, slightly more trust. Not blind loyalty, structured leverage. You test them with a small opportunity and see if they protect it or exploit it. Here's something nobody wants to admit. Small moves like this, repeated, are how rich and strategic people rewire their entire power position. One adjusted boundary, one upgraded ally, one contained snake. Do that every month for a year and your circle will not look the same. The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. This is forbidden strategy for most people because it kills their favorite fantasy, that loyalty is about feelings instead of patterns. Your final move in the next 24 hours is simple. You send this video to one trusted ally and you compare notes. Who in your shared circle triggers the most patterns? Where do your lists match? Where are you blind? What you're about to discover is that two aligned observers create exponential protection. In the next section, you'll see exactly how to build that united front in public without ever signaling to the snakes that the rules of the game just changed. Stay in the war room, subscribe to the Machiavellian lens or fall back as prey. That united front is your shield. But a shield is useless if you walk back into the battlefield blind, distracted, and lulled back to sleep by average voices. Here's something nobody wants to admit. If you don't stay inside a war room, you drift back into the herd. And herds get harvested. This channel is that war room, not motivation, not comfort. A place where money, power, and human behavior get dissected without soft lies. Where we separate wolves from sheep and strip away the stories that keep you a victim in the money game. You come here to study predators, so you stop feeding them. Think carefully about this. Every other tab on your screen is pulling you back to average. Average advice. Average thinking. Average vulnerability. You know what that produces? The same life that let snakes into your circle in the first place. You start trusting words again. You start ignoring behavior again. You start believing the game is fair while predators quietly reset the board around you. The truth is simple but painful. If you don't keep sharpening this lens, your old programming will reclaim you. You will explain away red flags. You will rationalize gossip, flattery, and small betrayals as just how people are. And the next time you say, "I never saw it coming," it will not be an accident. It will be a choice to stop training. Subscribing here is not about supporting a channel. It is about declaring an identity. You are choosing predator over prey. You are choosing control over delusion. So hit subscribe, turn on notifications, hit like. Do it as a deliberate ritual that says, "I study power on purpose. I don't drift. I don't sleepwalk into traps." The game isn't rigged. You just don't know the real rules yet. This is forbidden strategy, and it only works if you stay in it. I want you to anchor this session right now. Drop a comment with one insight that hit you hardest, or one person you're quietly re-evaluating without naming names. That public commitment locks the pattern into your nervous system. It also shows you something else. You are not the only one waking up. You will see other people spotting the same patterns, fighting the same enemies. Refuse, because understand this, the snakes are already watching the same lies. They watch what you post, who you follow, what you tolerate. They are studying your blind spots. The only question is whether you walk into their game blind, or drag them into yours, fully awake.